Today's guest is a boundary-breaking actress and changemaker who you might recognise from Netflix Heartstopper, or you might just be one of her 1.5 million followers across social media. She inspired a generation when she documented her transition on social media and has since partnered with everyone from ASOS to the cover of Attitude magazine. Babes, it's Bel Priestly. Babes, it's Bel Priestly on the pieces. How are you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good.
That was really sweet.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm one of the people, I always feel awkward when people say it, but that was really nice.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I understand that. I'm not. I'm like, give me more.
Yeah, like tell me,
Tell me everything.
Achievements. Yeah, no, fair.
So this is my podcast, The Pieces,
Okay.
where I get to know everything about you and what has shaped you and who you are today.
Okay.
So let's start at the very beginning.
Okay.
What was life like for a young Bel Priestly growing up in the early noughties, which makes me feel sick?
2003, baby.
2003. I was
crazy.
1993.
Oh, same age.
Yeah.
Practically. Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird time because I come from quite a small town. I come from like a place in Buckinghamshire. So it was also like, it was interesting. It was definitely, I didn't transition until I was sort of 12. Mm-hmm. So before that, I moved schools quite a lot because I was quite badly bullied. Because I think it was kind of the thing of like, I didn't know. I was different, but I didn't know why I was different. Mm-hmm. So kind of moved schools quite a lot until, because I was bullied at every school. I was really liked at school. And then I transitioned at like 12. Because I kind of started wearing makeup and stuff when I was sort of 10. I actually did drag for a little bit.
Did you?
You're lucky I didn't go on the show. I would have won.
You would have won it. Well, I didn't. So.
We could both be runner-up together. Yeah. So I did a bit of, I played with makeup a lot, and then I kind of got like a phone and kind of, you know, like the thing is, because it wasn't really in the media at all, especially people being trans. Like my idea of being trans was like, you see someone walking downtown with a wig and you just assume that's all it is. And I kind of got a phone, went on the internet, and then finally saw sort of people like me, like Monroe and people online. And that's kind of when I transitioned, and it kind of all went a bit crazy from there. But yeah, I mean, it was a quite weird upbringing.
It's interesting because growing up for me, when I was watching Big Brother, we had Nadia win Big Brother like 20
I met
years
her
ago.
recently.
As a trans woman who won Big Brother, it was like the most prolific and big TV show. And it was like so kind of, the conversations weren't how they are today.
Yeah.
Is that a struggle hearing a lot of the conversations, and how do you like kind of keep it together in a way? Yeah,
I think it's weird that they're so open now, because growing up it was never a conversation. And people don't believe me when I say it because it was only under 10 years ago, but it was so different to how it is now. Like at school when I came out, no one had really a clue what I was on about, and no one really took me seriously. Even my parents, who like are the most supportive now, but like back then they just thought it was like kind of a phase. And I think people take the conversation a lot more seriously now, but I do find it weird that like people debate it more now than we used to years ago. I think that people kind of, a lot of people are really for it more than they were a while ago, but a lot of people are against it now as well, which is really weird. It's kind of like, as you see it more in the media and stuff, there's more people that have opposite views, if that makes sense. So
it's become a much more of a polarizing topic.
Yeah,
and I think
much more of a debate than it used to be.
A lot more of a debate, which I find always crazy, like debating the existence of people. I agree. It's wild to do, but I often see that like when a lot of media outlets will just use it as clickbait or use it to like spark conversation, they actually have an agenda, and their agenda isn't always to progress the conversation. It's actually to come backwards. Have you ever found yourself in situations where that's happened? I
did an interview for a really big broadcasting. I'm not going to say it because I want to keep them in my good books. But especially, she asked. We had an interview, and she asked me my dead name, and then and I didn't answer it because I was like, "That's ridiculous." And then and also my dead name isn't public anywhere. And then she asked my agent to print my dead name, which I thought was really, like, she wanted to refer to me as he in some of the article, and talk about my previous name and share that. And my agents thought we didn't go ahead with the interview, obviously. But to me, that's just common sense that you wouldn't mention that or say that. But some people just don't know. It's really interesting.
And for anyone using a dead name, why is that so? Like, for people that might not understand or like get it, because obviously she had a view and agenda.
Yeah.
But like, explain a bit why.
Well, I think like when I look at my life as a boy before who I am now, it's not a different person, but it's just a different life. Like, it is a transition. It is, your whole life changes. It isn't just you're changing gender. You change as a person completely. And
you live your truth, your authenticity.
Exactly. And the previous person wasn't really you.
Yeah.
Like, they're kind of dead to you now, and they're also dead to the world in some aspects. So like bringing it up and also naming someone that and trying to find that out, especially when I'm years down the line and it's never been public knowledge and no one knows about it. I haven't transitioned publicly.
And they shouldn't know.
Exactly, that's the point.
You are who you are.
Yeah, also I was like I was like 12. Like it's been like nearly 10 years. Like it's just crazy to me. So yeah, it's just something that you really shouldn't ask. There's a lot of things you shouldn't ask, but I think people sometimes mix the lines between curiosity and being disrespectful.
Totally.
Which I'm sure you've experienced that in your line of work as well.
And people do it, and it's a very harmful thing to do, and it's a conversation that a lot of people don't want to have. So be more respectful.
Yeah, 100%. Pretty please.
Pretty. So going back to what you were saying with your parents, and like at the beginning, you spoke about they thought it was a phase.
Yeah.
Can you speak a bit about that and how they came around? And because I guess a lot of people that are watching or listening, that's a common thing. And obviously there's Danny St. James, who does incredible work for Not a Phase charity that supports trans adults. So yeah, can we talk about a bit of that, if that's okay?
So I started wearing makeup at like 10 or 11 and my mum knew about it, but my dad didn't. So it was kind of that thing of like makeup right before my dad comes home kind of situation. Yeah. And it was always a thing of, even when I was younger, I kind of was forced to play football and like rugby and like really fucking, that was awful.
I was so shit at football.
I was actually really good at rugby because I was really fast, but it was quite bad at school because everyone used to try and pass me the ball so they could tackle me, which is really sweet. But so my dad kind of, the important thing, he did it all from love, and it was all kind of trying to protect me and try and control a situation that he knew he couldn't control, to try and make me like as masculine as possible and kind of fit in as much as he could. But obviously it didn't work. And so when I got to sort of 12, I was kind of playing with wigs and makeup, and my mum knew all about this, but my dad didn't. And I had a YouTube channel, which my dad then found out, which was just really awkward. And from that, we had a conversation. And by that point, I kind of understood what trans was. And
I remember what age this was?
Oh, probably like 12 or 13. Yeah. I was really young. And as soon as, it's really weird, like as soon as I don't know if you had this with drag as well, but like as soon as I knew what being a trans woman was, it was like a puzzle piece. Like it made so much sense to me. So I kind of explained it to them, and I think they didn't know, they also didn't have much, they weren't that clued up on the trans world. They're just like LGBTQ plus in general, because it was kind of still a bit of a taboo subject. So they were supportive to a certain degree, but I think they were more scared than anything. And also, as with before, like you're going to mourn. Like my dad grew up, having a boy, and what that boy. Because also at the time, we didn't know like if I'd ever get married, have kids. Like the life that they had not planned for me, but wanted for me, could possibly not happen. The
society expectations are already kind of so ingrained in the system, is kind of what was expected. Yeah. So it's something that deviates from that.
Yeah, and in the last 10 years, I think it's changed. We're seeing gay people adopt, and, people have families and get married, and that wasn't really a thing 10 years ago, or at least not in the media. And so I think for them it was quite scary, and they kind of were just like, if it's a phase, like, we'll support you, and then if it goes more than that, then that's fine. And then my parents actually split up when I came out. It wasn't just that, but it was kind of like the defining factor in some aspects. And we sat down, before my dad moved out, we sat down and watched What Makes a Woman by Monroe Bagdoff, who is like my I love her.
love
And
Bimini.
that whole documentary is sort of exploring being a trans woman and what it is to be a woman. And they, after that moment, they kind of understood a lot more and just sort of said like, well, if this is what you're going to do, we're going to support you because, I mean, that's my thought and feelings towards it is like, you can either be against it or you can support me. Like, that's kind of the way I've always been. Like,
this is me.
Exactly. People that have, I think you have to go out your way to have such an issue with something, I think, especially people that are like homophobic or transphobic. It's like, you're going out your way to do this. Like, you're making your life and other people's life difficult for no reason. So I'm glad that they supported me. And ever since then, I transitioned at school. I went into school the next day wearing a skirt. And yeah, school was rough the last 2 years because there still was no rules that I couldn't go to the girls' bathroom. And I got excluded once for going to the girls' bathroom and shouted out about it once. And, you know, I struggled to like try and change my name in school. That was really difficult. And
there weren't things in place to protect
exactly.
you.
But at least my parents were supportive.
Yeah.
So when I came home, I could be myself. Even though I couldn't really be myself at school or felt like I was being judged, at least in my own home, it was safe, which was nice. And I'm always grateful for that because I know a lot of girls and guys and them in between like haven't had that. So I will always be grateful for that after I transitioned.
What do you think schools can do more to protect trans youth?
I don't think I think, do you know what? It's crazy to me how people would be so openly transphobic to me. I remember one boy like pushed me and spat on me and my teachers were like, yeah, but like you have to understand like comes from like quite a religious background. Like it's just not something he believes in.
But then
is
it part of the religion to spit and push someone?
I was like, that is still abuse.
That
like
is abuse.
You can't kill someone and be like, do you know what, they actually were quite against it. So I'm just gonna let them off with murder. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not what you want about. Like it was the constant thing of like, you've transitioned, so what do you expect? That was kind of how I was treated at school and there was no inclusion. And I remember these people being really horrible to me and I went into the sort of like support centre and they basically were like, I mean, you're still physically a boy, so I don't really know what you wanted from this situation. Like you knew this was going to be like when you came out, so we can't do anything. And that was a kind of...
It's a shaming.
Exactly. And it's heartbreaking when it's, you know, like I'd walk around the corridors and it felt like everyone hated me. Like it was just like the constant day looks, calling names. Like it was hell. Like it's not till you're out of that situation that you realise how bad it was. And like I remember one time this boy, I was talking to this guy in my school and he was in the football team, typical. And it got leaked somehow, like, or like I think someone saw it on my phone or saw it on his phone. And people would like post on their stories like, this is so embarrassing for him. Like, and everyone would mock me. And like people went on his phone and found like my nudes and like shared that around school. And it was like the teacher did nothing about it. And it was my fault for like taking the picture. And like going forward, I think it's just supporting kids because you can't always control children and how they're going to treat other children. But as long as you're there to support them and the right repercussions are in place, I think at least you could feel a bit more supported. Because I think when I was going with all these issues to school and they'd be like, we can't do anything, you then feel helpless, and that was the real issue. Did you have a support system around you other than obviously your parents? My friendships in school were really weird as well. I think, look, if they were my friends today, I wouldn't be friends with them anymore. Yeah. Like, I think when you're in that sort of situation, I don't know what you were like growing up, but when you... I was annoying. Yeah. Same. When you don't have many friends and the world kind of seems against you, you're kind of just take what you can get. Totally. And I was in this really horrible friendship group. In fact, like, they were also the ones that shared my news around school. They were also the ones that would say comments about me. And, you know, one time I remember when I wore a skirt and I wore these tights and they thought it'd be funny to push me over and rip my tights in front of the whole school. Like, they were horrible, horrible girls. So I didn't really have a support system. But you just kind of go with the people that you think... Yeah, and like they'd be nice sometimes. Yeah. And that also, because I grew up never having friends, I thought that's what friendship was. Yeah. It's not till I left school and it's not till I really started this job, if I'm being honest, that I met real friends in the industry. And I sort of got older and took less shit. And can I swear?
You can swear,
Okay,
yeah.
good. That's what I say. I feel like
Say
it's
what
your
the fuck you
podcast.
want.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I say. And it's not till I sort of made real friendships that I kind of was like, how did I go through that through school? That was crazy to sort of think back and think that these people were meant to be my friends and they also being the ones that were horrible. They probably were more horrible than, like, because it's more psychological, isn't it?
What it's such a you have to become so strong and resilient, you know.
And
like when you're going through that, like where has that come from for you?
I don't know, because I'm sure you'll get this being in the public eye and being who you are. Like people always say to you, "Oh, you're so strong," like you're so inspirational, etc. But
you're human.
Going through it, like you don't think that.
Yeah.
Like
you kind of have to be.
Exactly. You don't really have a choice. Like there was no other option.
Yeah.
Also growing up, being treated so differently ever since I was younger, it was just kind of normal. Like I didn't really I never had a normal experience. So it wasn't like something switched. So you just kind of dealt with it. And then I just always tried to be hopeful that one day I could move to London or move away and kind of get away from what was going on. But I mean, I was lucky to do everything that I always wanted to do. But at the time, it was just sort of try to survive and just keep your head down, which was just, and it's weird when everyone says like, oh, you're so strong. And because obviously I'm very grateful. That's a really nice compliment. But I didn't feel it and I don't feel it. Like I'm human, I guess.
I think there's something that's very unique about you is you allow yourself to be vulnerable, which I think is a superpower, you know? A lot of people are scared, and to be courageous and be yourself is one of the hardest things you can do and live authentically. And I think you kind of started your transition when you were 13 years old. And within a few years, you'd amassed over 1 million followers. Yeah. Because you were doing it quite publicly.
Yeah.
And tell me about how 13-year-old Bel approached coming out and how did you handle that? Deciding to be so public about it?
So when it came to social media, I used to post these little vlogs. I never really was a big TV kid. I always watched YouTubers. That was always my thing. So like I was in the Zoella era of life.
2016 YouTube drama was
like the best thing ever. So to me, I always wanted to be an influencer. And I used to share it quite publicly on YouTube, but like it would get like, I felt like 100 views, and it was everyone from school just probably watching in the classrooms and mocking me, so it wasn't really that great. And then in sixth form, these girls that I was talking about before, I kind of had a bit more confidence because my hair had finally grown out and I kind of learned how to do makeup and I looked a bit more feminine, and I kind of had a few more friends outside of school because it was sort of 16, 17 at this point. And I basically fell out with this girl group because I was like, do you know what? You're just not my people. And I had all this free time, and TikTok had just become a thing, kind of like it was still kind of known as Musical.ly.
Yeah.
Like it just transitioned to TikTok, like 2019 time. And I just posted a few videos and I actually was never going to share it. And then someone commented on it and mentioned it. I was like, oh, do you know what? Like there's no one else on here, especially my age, doing this on this platform. So why not just share it and see what happens? And then it was Christmas time and I went home for Christmas. And when I came back, I had like 150,000 followers or something ridiculous.
That's crazy.
And then I left just before lockdown, and then grew through lockdown. Then when 2021, when we all kind of came out of our homes again, I had nearly 1 million followers, which is just crazy. So it was just such a weird, surreal thing because I didn't go out of the house until I never like had the whole thing of like going out in public and realizing it was happening. I sort of came out with 1 million followers and it was crazy.
So obviously, like, I think being so public is so strong to do that, especially so young as well. And I think I'm sure you've had like loads of people ask you like, how has so-and-so not allowing you to be yourself, how has that affected you? And obviously I've spoken about this, but I want to know the decision when you realized who you were and you started making the waves to transition. Yeah. How did that start making you feel?
It was a mix of feelings, really. I think because it was obviously very euphoric. Yeah.
Which is something I think people don't often talk about. Yeah. They don't get to talk about that euphoric side. And I think that's something that's so important for people to hear as well.
Exactly. And I think people kind of don't realize how important it is. Like, you know, wearing a bra for the first time or having long hair for the first time and seeing someone that you've always wanted to be and who, like, your real self, seeing that peek through is all so lovely. But I think at the same time, I was so young, and it was always a mix of like feeling good for like 5-10 minutes, and then in reality knowing the situation and knowing that I can't go out like this, or knowing that I'm not on hormones yet, and you know, I didn't look the way I wanted to look. I didn't look as feminine as I wanted to look. Like, it was always a mix of emotions. It was a mix of being euphoric and feeling good and feeling confident and feeling like yourself, but also having this overwhelming fear of the real world and knowing that it's going to be a long journey till sort of and I look back at pictures now and like, God, now I would never imagine looking how I look now. Like, I sort of didn't know where I'd end up. So it's really emotional to look back and be like, God, like, really didn't know what was going to happen.
Has it quite changed over time? Like,
yeah, I feel like I go through.
Well?
I feel like I go through a new era every 6 months. Like, I think you do it. Like, I've always been that person that likes to reinvent myself and always better myself. My mum's a personal trainer, so she's like 16. She looks incredible. And she always,
I love that.
Yeah, she's got a better body than me. It's ridiculous. And she always betters herself. She's always in the gym. She's always focusing on herself. So I've kind of grown up with that. Yeah. So I've always been the same. So I look back at myself a year ago, and I've either changed a lot physically or mentally. And I think that's, as you get older, it's a big thing as well. You always you grow up, really, especially from 18 to 21. I've noticed a huge change. But yeah, it is weird looking back and being like, I look like a different human. Do you get that?
Yeah, I can look back, but I love the change. Like, I grew up on, like, my biggest inspirations growing up were like the 90s, like music videos and pop stars and like Madonna and Britney and all of those galleys. And Madonna was changing all the time. Yeah. So we love
She's always changing all the time.
She's always changing.
Have you met Madonna?
I haven't met Madonna. Oh, I keep calling her, she doesn't answer.
Madonna, if you're watching, pick up.
So as I mentioned, you've documented your life on YouTube and TikTok, but what has your experience been with the public having such a look on in your life? Do you feel like people feel like they know you? Yeah.
And I think also you kind of, when I talk about something online, I think, I don't know if you get the same thing, you forget the numbers of people.
Yep.
So when I got my face done, or going on hormones for the first time, going out in public, and some of them videos, like when I got my voice done, I'm actually getting it done in a few days. But when I got it done before I talked about getting it done, I think the video now has like 8.5 million views on TikTok. And everywhere I went, people would come, oh my God, you got your voice, like, and they'd mention it to me. I'd be like, how do you know that? Like, but you forget. So it has been weird. And I think as I've got older, as I've got more happy with myself and I've made more personal changes to myself, it is that battle of how much do I share now?
Yeah.
Because, you know, I've been in relationships and I haven't shared them online, and I've had friendship fallouts and I haven't, like, I've used to live with someone who quite publicly and we fell out and we don't speak anymore. And that was never shared. I think as you get bigger and bigger, you share less and less.
Yeah.
Because I want to share it, but also sometimes the feelings feel more raw, and I'm trying to deal with it myself. And as I've got a bigger platform, I don't want the world's eyes on what I'm dealing with. And I think people kind of don't realise that, you know, just because I'm trans doesn't mean I don't deal with other issues outside of being trans. Like,
you're human.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's so much things going on that above being trans that, you know, as a teenager to adult, you have to learn and deal with. So yeah, I do find it weird kind of finding what to share and what not to share, and people knowing so much about me now, which I'd never really expected, because I sort of post these videos years ago thinking that no one would see it, and then
you don't know who's watching.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, especially at such sensitive times, was there a moment that you realised that so many other people have developed kind of an attachment to you through social media, or whilst figuring out who you are and who you want to be?
Yeah, people say that I've sort of like, I've changed like their life, or changed how they see themselves, which is mental to me because I just can't imagine it.
Yeah.
Like at Attitude the other night, actually, Brianna's mum and sister came up to me and was sort of, I used to follow her, and they were saying how much that meant to her and how excited and stuff she was. And that just, I was like, God, that's crazy. Like, just me posting whatever has made such an impact on certain people's lives. It is a weird feeling. I don't know if you got that with Drag Race, but I think because you were so unique and so different, I don't know if you felt that, because you're just being yourself.
I've definitely felt pressure.
Yeah.
With it. Like, I think fear of fucking up. But I actually think like I realised like fear, being a kind of owning failures and being
Yeah.
imperfect is kind of my superpower in a way as well.
Yeah, I think-
and owning that.
No one likes anyone that's perfect.
No, what is that?
Yeah, exactly. It's not real life.
Do you have that as well, though? Do you feel like you can't? You worry about like perceptions, for
Yeah.
example, and then you realize actually no.
Yeah, when I got my voice done recently, it didn't go to plan and I didn't love it. And I kind of shared that. And I think it was quite embarrassing to admit, I got a surgery and it didn't go as planned. And I was quite embarrassed about it. And
It's so real.
Yeah, I think it's owning it. And I think it takes away the embarrassment of stuff. And I think also, like, it's real life and people need to see that. Like, not every surgery goes to plan. Not every relationship goes to plan. Like, things happen. Life goes wrong. Like, it's part of life. So I think when you share it, it makes you own it.
Yeah.
Which I think's nice.
Yeah.
So
Take the power.
Yeah, exactly. And like, if you come out and act like you're not embarrassed, or even if you are, like, coming out and owning it makes you subconsciously own it.
Do you feel like documenting your transition on social media has influenced how you present yourself and ultimately who you've become?
Yeah, I think that I have learned so much from other people, and I think came into the industry quite young, and I got to be around all these people that really inspired me and met all these people that, I looked up to. So I've learned so much from other people, and I will hopefully continue to learn so much from other people. I actually was saying to my friend this morning, I don't know if you remember, I met you at the Jamie premiere. You probably won't remember because it was years ago.
Years ago.
But you were one of the first people in the public eye that I met.
Really? So that would have been in 2021?
Yeah, because it was just after lockdown, and it was my first premiere. And I don't know if would it been when Drag Race came out.
It just had come out.
Yeah,
And
I remember watching the season, and obviously know who you are, and etc. etc. And I met you on the stairs, and I remember being like, oh my god, because it was the first sort of celebrity encounter that I'd met, and I was literally like, whoa, what is going on?
That.
And I remember saying like, by the way, like, I just think you're great.
Oh,
and
I find those situations quite a whirlwind though.
Yeah.
Like I don't often always take everything. I'm like,
no. To be fair, like I was like, there's no way you remember, but like,
how do you feel in those circumstances now? Like those situations, like action films, for example.
it is weird. I don't know if you get this. It's weird. You kind of get a bit more numb to celebrities and stuff the more you're in the industry. But it is always crazy. But I'm quite close with Monroe, and she was like such a big inspiration in my life.
Great.
And she's taught me so much. And I think as you grow up, learning that like, your life doesn't end at 21 and there's so much great to happen.
Or 31.
Or whatever.
There's so much, yeah.
Exactly.
So much.
I think you end up becoming happier in yourself, I think, and kind of enjoy the ride more. I think it's knowing that like, I don't have to be exactly where I want to be at 20.
Absolutely.
Like it's constantly growing.
I started drag. I first performed in 2017 and I had studied at university and I didn't get into drag until, I looked like shit for many, many years as I was like trying.
How did you get into it, just out of curiosity?
I just went to go to, I was going out in East London a lot. And I was like kind of part of Stick the Pink, but like I wasn't really doing drag. And I remember just seeing this like art form and it was like really, it was kind of before Drag Race was even in the UK.
I think Drag Race really brought it up.
But it was in the UK and it was so raw and so real. And I felt like I want to do that. I want to be on stage. Like I've got something to say. And like I kind of played for years and it took me a while to really kind of get into it. And then I went on Drag Race, but 2017 was when I first performed.
Wow.
So that was like, I was 24.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. You
wouldn't have known at 20 that was going to be your career choice. And
absolutely no. I mean, I wanted to be a pop star. Do you know what I mean? Like you always but like you do, like you figure out what you want and there's like no definitive time, time frame. You've done so much already.
Thank you.
At this age. Like it's incredible. Like to even go from like documenting your journey to now being on Heartstoppers, which is iconic representation. Yeah. But what drew you to that opportunity? What drew you to acting?
I think with Heartstopper it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. And it that's the thing, it changed my career path completely because I always wanted to be an actress. I did drama in school. But again, my teachers are always like, there's no trans roles happening, so like kind of give up on your dream basically. And then it was 2022 and I got a call from my manager. I didn't even have an agent. I got a call from my manager being like, it's like such a long shot, but like they're casting for a new trans girl on Heartstopper. and they want you to like just tape for it, but obviously like you haven't acted in years, like I mean, like, not good luck, but like let's see what happens kind of thing. And don't get your hopes up, basically. And I did the tape and sent it off, and it was like 2 weeks of a state for 2 weeks, and then got the call and I was on set in 10 days.
Such a quick turnaround.
Yeah, and I couldn't share it with anyone.
Yeah.
That was the crazy bit, is my, like, it sort of took me out of the whole influencer world. I am still an influencer, but actress is now part of that. Mm-hmm. And that show changed my life 100%. Like, it gave me a new lease of what I wanted to be, and
direction.
Yeah, it was such a big change, and also I learned so much from it.
What's been your favourite thing you've learned from it? Or like being part? Is it just being part of such?
Being part of such a big show. I think also just the people I've met from it, and you know, doing it with Yaz has been so incredible, because
love Yaz.
She taught me so much being on set. And so like we've known each other for years, and we've known each other since we were 14, but it taught me a lot about being an adult, I think, and growing up. And I grew up, I mean, I was 19 when I got Heartstopper. So over these 2 years, I think I associate Heartstopper with my growth in terms as a human, because I think I've had to grow up a lot more, because you go from posting your own videos to being in a Netflix show that is number one in however many countries and seen by so many people. You grow up a lot quicker, I think.
Why is Heartstopper such an important show?
It is. I think the thing is that everyone says, and I think you'll agree with this, like, we did not have this growing up at all. And if I was 10 watching the show, you know, you learn so much about yourself. It's not even trans kids, it's people that are kids that are, you know, asexual or bi or gay or anything. You know, seeing that and seeing a positive representation is so important, because I think for a lot of shows, you have really important shows like Pose, which is such an incredible show, but it's so mature and it is quite dark and it's not very positive. Whereas like Heartstopper is so positive and young and nothing really bad happens, and it's just a really nice show to watch.
It's important to have that, because otherwise
and have the mix.
It's like shows about, and it's important to also have this side of the show, because there has been a lot of queer shame. There has been a lot of things throughout history that we need to speak about. But it's 100%. Also just having queer joy.
Exactly. I think,
and euphoria.
That's the thing. I think it's having the mix. I think it's having shows that make you feel good and happy, and then also have shows like Pose that educate you, or It's a Sin, which is just such a beautiful thing to watch, and you learn so much from it. But it's also nice to put on the telly and watch two young boys fall in love, and
it's also normalizing what society has almost othered.
Exactly.
In a way, and like seeing younger people can view themselves and be represented in a way that they might not feel like has always been validated for them. And it's so important to have role models like yourself. I think also with Heartstopper, there's such a diehard fan base for Heartstopper. And I think people in the community have found their friends through the show. I think it's, you know, people have found friendships through the show. They've, you know, found relationships through the show. I think it's changed a lot. I think it's changed so many people's lives. And I think like Alice should be so proud, and like Pat and everyone that's on the show, like it should be, it's done so well, and I'm so happy for everyone that's involved. And I think it's changed so many people's lives. Yeah, I think even this season it got quite mature and quite dark. And it's really interesting to watch that shift and see how people are reacting to that. But yeah, it's such a good show. It's important to have things like that because it's real as well. Yeah. Do you feel like acting has let you inhabit different identities and express yourself in a different way as well? Yeah, I think people always ask me like what I see in Naomi, how am I similar to Naomi? And I think she was kind of the person that I wish I was at school. And it's really weird we filmed in a school, so going back to school and... Yeah, that must be weird. Yeah, that was really weird. And also because all my experiences of school were hell and horror, so I went back like, God, this would be terrifying. And going back and kind of being this confident, cool girl that is giving the advice is so not me. It's so not what I was in school. So it's so interesting kind of being a bit of like your alter ego. And, you know, I've gone up for roles that are so different to me, and it's kind of nice to sort of put on a persona and have fun and do your thing. And I love it. I think it was really interesting to be someone that I wasn't in school. How did you get into the role? What did you do to prepare for it, or like kind of get into that character? Yeah, so I got this sort of brief of like, Naomi's this confident, cool girl. Yeah. And I wrote down, what does confidence and coolness look like to me? And how would I portray that? And if I could take myself back
years ago, to being in school and how I would have acted if I felt like that, and how I would have walked around, and how I would have, you know, spoke to people, and how I would have like come across to people. I think that was like a big thing of sort of putting myself in, because I think when I have so much trauma about school, I think it was quite a big shift.
It's triggering, isn't it,
because it's not like it's paying someone that's completely different to me, but also for a reason. And it's not like I'm playing like a serial killer where I have no attachment to killing anyone. So it's quite, I can go into the role quite easily because it's so different to me, whereas this is so close to home. So it was weird, but I think it was just kind of being who I would have wanted to be. And that's what I tried to come across like in the show, which I hope came across.
Definitely, yeah. Looking back at your journey, this last question now.
Okay.
So you've done amazing. I've loved chatting to you.
Oh, this is so nice.
Thank you for sharing so much.
Thank you for listening
Looking back at your journey and the impact you have had on young LGBTQ people, what do you hope that your impact has been?
I hope it's been positive. I know, I just hope that...
I'm sure it will have been.
Yeah, fingers crossed. If not, sorry everyone. I hope that I can be the person that I just didn't have growing up. And I think that's, when it comes down to it, and everything I do in my career and what I will continue to do, it always comes back down to that. Because for me, it took me so long to come out. And I say that, I mean, I was 13, but I felt it since I was 5. So it took me 8 years of being uncomfortable in my body. And I know people come out a lot older, and I'm very lucky to come out when I came out. But I think if it can be just being that person I didn't have growing up and continue to be that and continue to inspire people, then I'm happy. That's fine by me. That's kind of my thing. And do you have any advice for anyone that is questioning their own identity? Just be yourself. And I think people don't talk about how you don't have to be the end goal tomorrow. Like, have fun with it and just enjoy it. Like, experiment with your style, experiment with your hair, experiment with makeup. Like, you don't have to follow this step-by-step list of being who you are. Like, you know, I think I'm so glad now, like, being non-binary is so much bigger than it used to be, because you don't have to, it's not boy or girl anymore. You can just be yourself. And I think enjoy the process, or try to enjoy the process. Don't put stress on yourself trying to be this person overnight, because you're going to get upset with the results. So just enjoy the process, enjoy finding yourself, and don't put pressure on yourself, because I think I put so much pressure on myself as a like, even now I do, but at like 14, 15, I put pressure to be like looking like Kylie Jenner. And it was like, in what world? So I think... He doesn't even look like Kylie Jenner. Exactly. So I think it's just not putting your pressure on yourself, and just allowing yourself to go through the process and just enjoy it as much as you can. And if someone gives you slack, just tell them to fuck off. Yeah. Make your own rule book. Exactly. Bel Priestley, thank you so much for coming on The Pieces. Love you. Love you.